And now we're recording, and I want to welcome those of you who've come to the May Marketing Tool Talk, and we're going to talk content calendars. And I'm going to be respectful of your time. We're going to be shorter than we have been a couple times lately when I've had guests on. And this is just a reminder for those of you who come as you come in the chat window, scroll up, and you can find the PDF that has some additional resources that we're talking today. Hey, and somebody's here from South Africa, and that's cool. If everybody wants to throw in where they're from, that's awesome, and we can share that in the chat window. So I want to talk about content calendars, and we're going to talk tools because this is Marketing Tool Talk. But I'm also going to say right up front, right off the bat, that the actual tool you use doesn't matter nearly as much as the fact that having a calendar matters and getting your marketing all on in one place. Excellent. We got the Midwest represented, Dallas and Texas. Excellent. So there's another question you can throw in the chat window. I'm guessing that libraries all have calendars, right? I mean, we've got the calendars of events when things are happening, when programming is happening. But how many of you have specific calendars just for you all, just for doing your marketing? You've got a calendar that's just, the public doesn't have to see this. This is just for you, your team, yourself, marketing calendar. And if you want to let me know, put that in the chat and let me know what you're already using to do that. If you have some kind of a marketing calendar, possibly even a content calendar, throw that in the chat, and then I'm going to go share the slides and we're going to get going. And we're going to share the screen. Hey, Scott from Arizona. Excellent. Glad you're here. And there we go. So we know in Marketing Tool Talk, I'm trying to give you some tools to help simplify, boost your marketing, organize everything, make your life a little bit simpler. For those who are newer and maybe haven't joined in one of the previous Marketing Tool Talks, those are my bona fides. After a former career way back when as an advertising executive, and I did some retail management, customer service, I had my MLS from Drexel University, and it seems to have happened further and further ago in the past now. I also did some IMLS-funded scholarship in digital resources and education with Drexel before I decided that I had better things to do and other ways to teach, like webinars, and did not have to stay in the PhD program. I write the column on marketing tools and hacks. For information today's marketing library services, great practical tips. If you're not already a subscriber, I really do encourage it, and not just because I write for it. And I think I have the most recent issue is out, and you can also get my free review that I did for video marketing. There's a book that just came out, and I joke it's the book that I might have written if I'd had time to write a book. And president of the board of directors of the nonprofit that runs the library marketing conference in the LMCC. And for those of you who don't know, the call for proposals is open. We need your excellence in case studies, your examples, your successes in library marketing. The call will be open for the rest of the month of May, but get those ideas in. That's what makes having a successful conference possible. So there's my plug for that. So what I show in Marketing Tool Talk is I try to generally show at least 3 tools. I show a favorite, I show something that's maybe newer to you that you haven't heard of or explored, and something maybe that's even newer to me that I'm exploring, and we try and figure out whether this makes sense to add to our marketing toolkits. And today we're talking content calendars. And what you may have heard me say at the beginning is that it's really not so much about the tools in this case. I'm going to tell you that some of the simplest tools are the best. That you don't have to go overboard. This is not one of those things where marketing tech is necessarily going to solve our problems. So there's going to be a little more up front where I'm talking about what is a content calendar, why is that something that we need or want to have, and then we'll talk some about how different tools can maybe help us and fit into the workflows that we have. So some of the things that I'm going to mention, content calendars. People, seriously, some of the best things out there, the simplest, an Excel or Google Sheet, Google Calendars, the slightly more advanced tools. I love Trello. I also love Trello because Trello is free. We could not have done the library marketing conference for the last 4 years if we didn't have Trello. It's what keeps us sane and organized. Asana, I'm exploring. Asana is like Trello. It is just organized differently. It's a different visual spread for project management, for project planning, but certainly you can use it because it's got calendars involved. CoSchedule is a dedicated content marketing editorial calendar tool, also with social media integration, social media curation, social media remarketing. And then, honest to God, there's also Postit Notes. I swear, you can do all your planning with a whiteboard and or with Postit Notes. Perfectly okay. I wrote some blog posts about that a year or so ago. Cool by me. And it's an excuse for us to go out and buy a whole heck of a lot of colorful Postit Notes. So what's an editorial calendar? I love the quote from Kivi LaRue Miller, who has written content marketing for nonprofits. It's one of the most bookmarked books on my bookshelf, that it's the itinerary for our marketing journey. And the main thing also is that, like a lot of what we do in marketing, planning is almost as more important than what happens next. Because if we don't have a good plan, then how do we know where we're going? How do we know if we're hitting our goals? How do we know if anything's working? So that's why we need plans. I'm big on that. I'm big on using whatever tools help you to get to where you're going, which is why you need to create the calendar that your team can handle. And if your team is one, that's okay. Create the calendar that you can handle. Don't pick something that's more complicated than what you need just because that's what somebody else recommended. So why having a content calendar? Well, we've got marketing goals, and this helps us stay focused on those goals. It helps us to get from goals and strategy into actions and planning that out. The more important thing maybe is that it helps us to integrate all of this so that we're not throwing things out on social and flyers and our digital signage in the libraries, and it's all happening piecemeal. The more we can put that into a calendar that coordinates all of that, whether that's a spreadsheet or an actual, little grids calendar, the better we're able to make priorities and make decisions, that we can follow our deadlines. We can set some boundaries here. So my picture there is about boundaries, and we can become consistent. And that's one of the biggest keys in marketing, is being consistent. And so that you don't spend your time, your precious time, reinventing the wheel and doing the same things over and over again, or coming up with new things every time you have to create another flyer or promote another event. So here's the moment of tough love. And some of these materials came from, I actually taught this webinar recently for the Massachusetts library system, is that tough love, just because you've got events coming up in your library and just because there is a themed month going on, does not necessarily mean it's something that is a marketing priority for you. Go back and ask yourself, what are your goals? What are the goals for the library? What are the goals for the year? What are the goals for this quarter? And would promoting that event and giving it precious space on the calendar and precious time and resources from you help you achieve the greater goal that's going on? And if your goal is tied to attendance at events, well, then by all means, you need to be promoting that. That needs to be on the calendar, and you need to plan out all the series of things before, during, and after that particular event. But take a step back. You control the marketing calendar, and just because it exists in the library doesn't necessarily mean it's helping you to market it if you're not achieving a particular goal. So there's my support for you to be, have a little tough love. So one of the main differences between just an overall marketing schedule is, okay, that's everything marketing related. That's cool. It's got your organization milestones, those seasonal reoccurring events, things like summer reading, back to school, library month. This is African American History Month. This is Women's History Month. Those sorts of things. The marketing calendar can show the ongoing, the fact that you've got a campaign that's going to take multiple months. Content calendars help you focus on the marketing message. So it's got themes, the core topics that you're going to talk about, how your messages repeat and build across platforms. You need to make sure you've got who you're talking to in there. What are the CTAs, is call to action. What are the calls to action for each piece of marketing? So make sure you're clear and that you don't necessarily have multiple calls to action going out on different pieces of marketing that are all about the same thing. It also allows you to plan in the things that are, when you're curating content, that not everything has to be something you've created originally. Maybe you're sharing something that somebody else in your community has created. You're sharing something else that another department in the college has created. You're sharing something that was great on great study tips. You didn't even have to go out and invent new study tips for your students. It's okay to share something that somebody else created, and the library says this is good. I mean, curation, that's kind of our thing, right? We were curating before curating was cool from a marketing sense. And I wrote a blog post about that. Definitely check that out if that's still something that's uncertain for you. So what needs to go on the content calendar? And this is where then you start to evaluate what tools fit better for you. Is, does it allow you to say what the thing is that you're marketing? Is it a flyer? Are they billboards? Is it a video post? Is it digital signage? Is it a billboard outside? Is it something that's inside? Social media? Whatever. When is it going to happen? When is the deadline for your team to create it? And when is the deadline that it's going to go out there and be in the public and be marketing? Where is it going to go? Who? Then there's two who's. First, who is the audience for this piece of marketing? And I think hopefully by now we all know, those of us who are cool and tuned into Marketing Tool Talk, that you know that the audience is not everybody. That you've got moms that may be one part of your audience. Freshmen is a different audience versus graduating seniors or your grad students. That your small business entrepreneurs using the library is a different audience than those who are coming for story time. Different pieces of marketing have different audiences. Who two is, who is going to be responsible for creating that piece of marketing? Who's responsible for reviewing it? Who's in charge of publishing it? And for teams of one, that may be you, and you. Or, me, myself, and I. Put that down still. Because maybe you've got somebody else that you can pull in who's just there to be your extra set of eyes and to edit or to review, just to make sure there aren't any typos, that the links all work. That's cool. Status. Is it in progress? Is it being reviewed? When did you publish it? And then here's the next one. Sometimes you're going to create things that you're going to be able to reuse. So note in the calendar, when should this be updated? When is it going to be ready for us to go back in and refresh it? Really common, done with a lot of LibGuides. Well, this can work for our marketing too. So this is a chance where I can remind you that, like I did for this webinar that was in more detail about content calendars that I did for the Massachusetts library system, I love doing webinars like this for library systems, for library consortiums. If you've got an in and you know somebody who's looking for training for a library consortium, love working with them. Done so in Florida, DC, New York. Definitely looking for opportunities in that regard. Have them email me. There's the email address. So here's some examples. Now we're going to get to talking to, and I'm going to just pop in the chat window real quick. Hopefully I can see the chat window. Actually, I can't. That's always one of the, there we go. Marketing, what's that? Don't have one calendars. Excellent word. Good. Anybody else using anything in terms of calendars, they can throw that in the chat window. So this is Excel. This is about as simple as it gets. And this is one that I actually created and I use myself in my business and with some clients. It was really simple. You can see it's got dates. It has the topic, what type of category maybe that it went in overall. These were related to blog posts, but you can have more tabs in Excel for video, for digital signage. Depends on it. However your mind is organized. Trust me, there are templates out there in Excel that can make this work. For here, I might have the format. For, in other words, if I was going to do a blog post, but it was going to be an infographic, I might put that in here. If it was going to be a blog post, but it was going to be a video, I'd put that in here. For me, if there was going to be a link to something else, the featured image that I was using to make sure that there was one, so that, for example, on WordPress, a featured image means it's going to automatically get pulled into Twitter and to Facebook. Here's where I would check off, is this something brand new that I'm creating? Is it something that I'm repurposing that it already existed in some other format maybe? Like taking slides from this webinar, from this PowerPoint, and turning them into a blog post? Is it something that I was curating? And then I can have the date. And here you can say I just put yes for the date published instead of the actual date. The other thing that, might be a standalone or might be another sheet within a spreadsheet is, for example, these were tweets that were being scheduled, and I had themes once upon a time for the days of the week. You can see how old this was when I was doing this. And one of the reasons that you might or might not want to have an Excel sheet where you've got scheduled tweets is, for example, if you have the paid version of Hootsuite. The paid version of Hootsuite lets you bulk upload this stuff. So in other words, you can take what's in the Excel spreadsheet and just go zoop and send it right up, which is particularly helpful. Yeah, so exactly, bulk messenger. Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Jen. So that's one reason. Well, there's now several reasons because, as things go on, more and more features are added to the paid plans for various social media tools, and it becomes more and more imperative that we have to start paying. That's one reason to do this. It's also, back when 140 characters was really important, the cool thing is you can make a cute little formula that says length equals 140 in the box for length, and it would count the characters in the message to make sure that you weren't going over, and to make sure that you left enough room to put your branded library hashtag or something in here. This was a way for me to say that, yeah, I had a quote that went along with this. Come on, let's go. This was a variation of a editorial template that was available for free from CMI. CMI is the Content Marketing Institute. Great resources. They do tons of great research, including, they used to be every year, now it seems to be almost every other year that they put out a benchmarking study for nonprofits using content marketing. Yearly they do business to business, business to consumer. They look at other countries. There's still a lot of good data there if you want to see where you maybe fall. These links, I'm also going to pop out of here in a second, and I'm going to show you, because now there's a version of this calendar that exists down here, as you can see, in Google Docs. And I'm going to show that to you and hopefully copy the link and put it in the chat window in just a second. And it's really easy to adapt this to how it fits for you. You can see schedules, ideas, content. Excel, Google Sheets, perfect way to go because they're really flexible. This is Google Calendar. The other cool thing about using Google Calendar is you can layer in. I'm very visual and I like colors, so I color code calendars. So this is, for example, this is my content calendar right now. It's in Google Calendar and it's color coded. And I can also pull in even external calendars. For example, Keeler Miller in the nonprofit marketing also puts out a calendar of like really important fun days to know, those cool things that we can use for just, we'll call them, Facebook filler fluff, candy kind of things. And I choose to put the ones on here that are really relevant to library type things, like International Children's Book Day, Haiku Poetry Day, Volunteer Recognition Day, World Book Night, Star Wars Day, Free Comic Book Day. You can pull those in. I've used other layered calendars, for example, to say, this is, a color might be green for emails, blue is anything related to this webinar series. I think gold was anything that was related to blog posts that I was creating. It could be also that a different color relates to a different team member. So anything that they're responsible for, your social media team gets a color. Facebook posts would get a color, and you could have what day you're going to put them on and when. If you're sending an email out, when. If you're going to change the digital signage in your library, that gets its own color and quote layer in the calendar, and it can all be in one place, and you can turn them on or off. I like that part. So I can see them or not see them. My other favorite tool, Trello. So this is the inside of my using a Trello board with my lists for content that I'm thinking about, ideas, things that are in planning, things that are in progress, things that have been completed. And I'm going to show you, there's a blog post from Trello where they go through some examples of other teams, other companies and organizations that are using Trello specifically for editorial calendars. For example, you could have a card in Trello that's about researching. And again, they can color code. So in other words, you might have a color assigned to a person. You have the board that's everything that's being written, everything that's being edited, everything that's completed, everything that's published, and so on. The other reason that I love Trello is because Trello is free. Trello is a great tool and free. Free for teams, yes, really, truly free. You pay for certain upgrades. I want to say that there are some calendar upgrades that you can pay for under the gold plan, but the amount of what you can do with Trello, with team members, with multiple boards, with teams assigned to boards, all for free is relatively mind-blowing. And if you're at all visual and you like to drag and drop and rearrange things and create these cards and drag and drop them, Trello's an awesome tool. This is an inside and a demo from CoSchedule. And it's so much more than social media management. And I'd like to say that if I had more content and even more of a budget, that CoSchedule would probably be the tool that I might pay to use, because it integrates the website and social media and curation and collaboration, and it's everything content marketing in one place. It's got a free 2-week trial. While it plays best with WordPress sites, it is not required to have a WordPress site to make use of CoSchedule. I will say that I'm a little disappointed, but not terribly surprised, that the prices on CoSchedule have gone up since I think I first grabbed this and showed this in some presentations at library conferences and on webinars a year ago, that it is now up to, I believe, $40 a month for one user for 5 social profiles at its cheapest level. They have pricing for higher education, but nothing that I can find is specifically for nonprofits. So again, starting off with one of the free tools like Trello, Asana, and Google Calendars, by all means go for that before you jump up and I'd say even considering paying for some of the other social media tools, maybe before you went for CoSchedule. This was the inside of what it looked like in the dashboard on one of my websites, and where it was pulling in, you can see content and things that it had ready to go, things that were getting ready to queue up and to share. This is, real quickly, this is Asana. Asana is, again, very visual, got a calendar. One of the main differences of Asana versus Trello is that it has these progress bars. So if you're using it to track tasks for teams and projects and you're collaborating, then you can see progress over time. That's more important for project management than it is from an editorial calendar standpoint. The other thing to know is that, again, Asana is free for up to 15 team members for basic dashboards. You get unlimited tasks, projects, and conversations, and then paid plans start at about $10 per member per month. For most of anything you're going to do with it, you don't need paid. You can do just about everything you're going to want to do regarding a content calendar or planning your marketing team projects with the free version. It's sort of a difference. I'd say try it out and figure out which visual aesthetic suits you and your team members better, Trello versus Asana. And that's one of the reasons why I'm still poking around to see. So, for example, you can see this is inside my Asana account where I have planned out my content calendar related to these webinars that I give for you all, my library pals and my Info Pro pals. And you can see I've got the cards, boards, I'm not even sure which one Asana calls it, for topics versus the webinar structure, beginning, content, teaching, related blog posts, if any, social promotion, emails. And then where I've basically done almost the same thing inside Trello, where here's the list of webinar topics for 2017, here's the list of topics for 2018, and then in Trello you would click those cards, and inside of each card you can have comments or notes. That's what the little speech bubble is. Or you can have a checklist, and that's what those little lines indicate. Oh no, that's what the check mark. That's what indicates that there's a checklist inside of that card. Different approaches to the same problem. And then there's old school, sticky notes, Postit notes, go wild. I did this. This took that Excel spreadsheet that I showed you in the very first example of a content calendar, and then it combined sticky notes, and the sticky notes were color coded to different topics in different themed areas, and it was a matter of literally stick, unstick, stick, move around, what was the flow, what made sense, moving them on actual pieces of paper, or you could do it on a whiteboard. And then if you want, transfer all of that back into the Google or Excel spreadsheet, or work from sticky notes and a paper calendar. Honestly, it's whatever fits your brain and your team best. That's an example from the Network for Good, great nonprofit marketing site. In Word, there's a Word document, simple, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Where is it going? Who's doing it? What are they doing? When is it going out? If that's what works for you, that's great. I need a little more visual and I need a little more color coding, which is why if you're going to start creating tables, you might as well start creating tables in Excel or Google rather than Word, but personal preference. So before we get into that, I'm going to actually stop this for a second and check in on, so similar to Airtable. Yeah, any thoughts on, that's a really good question on Airtable. I'm not as familiar with Airtable. That one came up a couple times in the research I was doing for the webinars on content calendars, and I'd love to know more. I think that's worth exploring further, because feel free to throw throw into the chat window anything that you know on Airtable, because I know of it. I haven't explored it maybe as much as I should, so that's the one that should get the next arrow that says explore more for this topic. And so here we go. You're still seeing this, right? So here's, for example, this is, and I'm going to grab if I can move my my Zoom window out of the way. I'm going to copy this and throw into the chat window just as soon as Okay, now I've just thrown into the chat window. That is the link to CMI's content marketing editorial calendar Google template. Now, the thing you need to know is you go up here to File and make a copy, because you don't want to edit this in the version that CMI owns. Make a copy, save it to your own Google Drive. So do that. But that's an example, again, that's got the simple basics of who, what, where, when. Free version and the paid premium levels on Airtable. Cool. All right, so that's something I'm going to check out. This is one of the resources that I believe I shared in that PDF that's in the chat window. CMI has done a number of posts over the years about making content calendars and what goes in a content calendar, and take only the bits of this that make sense for you and for your library. But they've got some good examples, and I'm trying to, so there was an example, in a tool that they were using where they organized it by day. Here's one that they were using within Airtable. Here's again somebody else using, they call the Kanban style boards in Trello. So again, they might also have what's been assigned, what hasn't been assigned, what's in the middle of being edited, what's being published. What you put as your columns is going to kind of make sense based on how you work. The other one that has a great, this is like the ultimate list, and this is in that PDF that I gave to you, and it tells you which one that you can download for free as templates to use. I'll say right now, stay away from HubSpot, only because HubSpot has gotten to the point where it asks more and more and more detailed information on their lead forms in order to get the free stuff. There are other options here. You can see who's who's showing it to you. How many of these are Excel? Here's the ones that are ungated, easy to get to. Versus Google, not many people are doing this or giving this away as a PDF. A couple of them. Editflow is a WordPress plugin that I've used in the past. It's free, and it's really, really dead simple, easy looking. And you can see there's my May content calendar in Google. And you can see with you using a layered Google is that I can turn on or off. I can turn off the fun days to know. I can turn off the library events and the conferences, or you can turn them back on. So that's another cool reason if you're already using Google Calendars in your organization. Really simple to make one that's just for content calendar. And then this is the blog post from Trello that I'm going to throw into the chat window. When I get it back, come on, chat window. There we go. And this is the sample examples again of how to use and set up Trello if you want to as an editorial calendar. So those are just a couple of examples. So now I'm curious, and I'll go back to the slides and ask you what was interesting. You know, what about any of these was something that you think you might want to try? You know, let me know what we're going to explore next. Again, those are some of the tools that you could use content calendar in addition to a social media scheduler like a Hootsuite, like a Buffer, Sprout Social, Post Planner. Planoly is one that we talked about in my last webinar when Ken Watson was here to talk about Instagram. Calendar-based planning tool. If you're on Instagram and you're using Instagram in your marketing and you missed that webinar, make sure that you find the email from me that had the link to the replay, because you're going to want to see that, and you're going to want to check Planoly because it's free too. That's another cool one. Another place where you can get templates of spreadsheets, content calendars, things like that is from Smartsheets. And this is the list of those links that I gave you in the PDF, and that's how you find me, find webinars. So all of that's cool, and I'm going to stop sharing, and just we can have a chat. So cool, using Trello, Trello. I almost feel like I should do a separate webinar just on Trello. It's very flexible in terms of how you use it. That's why sometimes it makes sense to go and check out Trello's blog to see the examples and case studies of how other of their users. Yes, please, separate Trello webinar. All right, well, cool. You know, maybe we'll do that, or check me on, and we'll do a Facebook Live or something like that on Trello. That for project management and team collaboration, you can save documents inside Trello. So, for example, using the Library Marketing Conference, we save information that we save the files for the logo. We save social media graphics that we're going to share. We save registration. We save Excel spreadsheets. We save our social media policies. All of that can be attached to cards inside of Trello. And so you can save the documents. You can refer to them. You can't edit them there like you can, say, Google Drive, but you can save them there, and they can be attached. For the Library Marketing Conferences board, we have a Trello, and we keep our minutes attached to the card for that board meeting for that given month, and I create the agenda as a checklist in there. Scott's using Asana for other projects and use Trello as well, but not for marketing calendars. And I think that's just showing that it's a matter of, once you know what should go in the content calendar, what should go in your marketing calendar, pick the tool that fits your brain, that fits your team, and try that out. The main thing is getting everything as much as possible into one place, so you've got one thing, you know, to look at. And so, sorry, I'm scrolling back here for a second. Question time. Are you actively using Asilo? Yeah, and if so, why are you using more tools? Scott, because I have a tool addiction. And partially is because I do these webinars, and because I write the column in here about tools. I'm constantly reviewing new tools to share, because I recommend the ones that I like, and I can recommend the ones that I've used, but I also know that my needs change over time, just like I'm guessing every other organization, other libraries needs change over time, and something that maybe fit us and fit our needs 6 months ago or 12 months ago maybe isn't what fits best now. And I will say that as much as I love Trello and I use Trello for groups, I sometimes have a hard time remembering to tell myself to go back in and check all of my boards in Trello, which is one reason something like a Google Calendar works well for me, because it's more in front of me in other places, you know, like on my phone. And I can set reminders and things like that. I will also say that one of the other cool things, though, I do like about Trello, Trello's app for iOS and Android is really nice. So I can go check my boards and things like that on my iPad. So there's probably no reason that I shouldn't be checking Trello more often. Carrie, you said you like Trello, had a hard time getting your team to buy into it. Curious, you know, any reason why you think maybe there was a tough team? Was it just because it was new? because that it's somewhat amorphous. Any question, I'm just curious as to why you think you may have had a tough time getting their buy-in on that. I don't want to do everything by email. Excuse me. Well, the interesting thing there is you can email updates from email into Trello. And Trello also sends you emails back when things have been added or there's a reminder. So in some respects, you could maybe get them to transition that way because they could email their updates and it will populate into Trello. In fact, I've done that a number of times. When we were working on something with the conference, I would get a notification that somebody had added a file or added a comment or had checked off a task that was related to marketing and promotion for the conference. And I could email back, and my email went to Trello, and it added it in to Trello. So there's all still in one place. We've got everything in one place, but it was via email. So maybe that's a baby step for them to take. And Jennifer's asking if I figure out anything about Airtable for calendaring. All right, cool. Then I will add that to the Airtable/Trello webinar that might be coming up. And maybe a few tunes ago. And that's again, if something doesn't work, okay, give it a few months. Maybe the team changes, maybe you change, maybe their ideas change, maybe they get more comfortable using a certain set of tools. If they won't use Trello or Asana, then Google Calendars, Google Sheets. The other reason why you could, a Google Sheet is maybe better than an Excel sheet is that everybody can be adding things to it and they can be updating it. They don't have to keep downloading it, as they're sharing it. So figure out the tool. Like I said, that screen at the very beginning with the washer, it's the calendar that works for your team, that works for the most of them. Even if you have to kind of drag them along a little bit, but you figure out what gets most of that data into one place. And if it also looks like this, that's okay too, but know that you want something that you can update and that lives because things change. So there's my thoughts on that, and we've gone 30 minutes. And any other questions, any other comments, anything else you're excited about in terms of content calendars? If anybody's excited to go and start creating content calendars now, I'm hoping. Let me know that. That's obviously not everything that there is to possibly know about a content calendar. I shortened a 60 to 90 minute webinar down to 30, but cool. Yeah, absolutely. Organization is sanity. Yes, and Scott, maybe that's one of the reasons why I keep trying different tools. I'm always looking for the tool that keeps me the most organized and the most sane at the same time. It's not always the same thing. And part of that is, I have to stop because I could keep searching tools and I'm tool junkie and I'm going to keep looking and there isn't one perfect, just like there is not one perfect social media tool. We got to stop looking. Find the one that works the best for you. And if for you in your library that's Buffer, use Buffer. If for you in your library that's Hootsuite, use Hootsuite. The only thing I have to say on that is that if your Instagram is part of your marketing, make sure you choose an app that is an official Instagram partner. Otherwise, you risk losing access to Instagram and anything that you've planned. But that was last month's webinar. So accountability, absolutely. And making sure, the columns for whose name this is and who checks it off, and you're going back in and you're checking it. Absolutely. Carrie Lynchkin. Yep. I'm going to email, scroll up through the chat window, Carrie, and hopefully if it's not there, you should be a link to the PDF with the additional resources that has the templates. For some of this, it's also got links to a couple of articles that I shared, but definitely if you're on the email, which you obviously are because you're here, you got here, then yes, there'll be a replay and you'll be getting that, making sure that yes, the little red button is still blinking. We're still recording. You will get this as a replay. It will be up on my website at marketingtooltalk.com just as soon as I can get this done before the next time I have to get some other projects and stuff out the door. Usually that's by like the Monday or Tuesday after the webinar. So great. I'm excited that you're excited. And anybody, so June, I crowdsourced June's topic. And June is going to be busting social media myths. There's a lot of things that are going on around out there. Things like Instagram and shadow banning. Oh my God, does Instagram ban certain hashtags? And okay, I was surprised to find out that there are certain hashtags that don't work at certain times of the year, and you'd be really surprised as to what those hashtags are and when. But the whole notion of banning, no. But we're gonna divide, we're gonna dive into some Facebook algorithm myths as best I can, and then point you to some resources. And I know some cool folks who are doing a lot more research than I am on this, where if you start seeing something passing around amongst your friends and your colleagues, and it's being searched like, oh my God, can you believe Facebook is doing this, and Instagram's doing this, and Twitter is doing this, or like, time out. Here's some resources to go check this out, and or places you can ask, and you're like, test this for me. Is this really happening? So here's the thing. If there's one that you've seen or heard, one sort of, I don't know, frightening, mythical social media thing, send me an email, because between now and June, I'm going to be digging up the resources and talking to some other pals and friends who are greater experts than I am. And we're going to get that together to bust those myths in June. And July, we're taking off because I have a big trip I have to go on. So taking July as vacation time, and then we're going to come right back at it for the rest of the summer. But definitely email me your social media myths, or tweet them to me at @theinfohound on Twitter, or drop them on my Facebook business page for IntelliCraft Research, facebook.com/IntelliCraft Research, and leave me your social media myths so that I can work on making sure that we get those busted for the next Marketing Tool Talk. I thank you very much. Look for the email with the replay. I thank you for spending some time with me this afternoon from all of the various places that you are all over the world. Thank you. Go out and to your marketing success.